The struggle towards achieving decent work is a big issue in developed countries and underdeveloped countries. Hello and welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's episode of the program, we will be discussing about the need for the implementation of the new national minimum wage. We will be right back. In November 2017, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari set up a tripartite committee to come up with a new national minimum wage for the country. After several deliberations and a warning strike in September 2018, organized labor, government and the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association (NECA) agreed on 30,000 naira as the new national minimum wage for workers.
The issue is ability or resources to take care of the minimum wage agreed. That's the something in question.
Few days after, the Nigeria Governors Forum, made up of the governors of the Nigerian 36 states, announced that they can only afford 22,500 naira, which is about $62. After several threats of strike and negotiation, the tripartite committee agreed on 30,000 naira, which was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on 18th of April 2019.
The signing of the act would pave way for the constitution of another committee to negotiate the issue of relativity, stroke consequential adjustment arising from the new national minimum wage of 30,000 naira only with the relevant labor unions.
About 4 months after the president's approval, workers are yet to start enjoying the minimum wage. This is because the consequential adjustment committee is yet to make headways. In my quest to get the pulse of Nigerians on the implementation of the new national minimum wage, I met with Deremi Adebowale, a street sweeper in Lagos State who earns 18,500 naira with no other benefits attached. The mother of 3 children tells me she can't wait to start earning the 30,000 naira minimum wage signed into law by President Buhari.
We want to plead government to increase our salary, because that 85 we cannot do anything. They should please help us to increase in time. We need minimum wage, because without that, with 18,500, we cannot do a lot of things we want to do.
She explained that though the 30,000 naira will not be sufficient, it will still assist her in meeting some of her daily needs.
We can't cope because the money is too small. Even if they pay us 30,000, it even reach anything for us to. We cannot do it with 1,000, but we are just please give us 30,000 in time, because that 85 is too small.
Can you share with me how many children do you have? Do they attend school? How much do you spend on electricity? How much do you spend on transport on a daily basis?
I know every day I enter transport 500 naira. And my children's school, I have 3 children. I pay 30,000. I don't even go to school that I like. They don't go to school that I like. But because I don't have money to put them in the school that I like, I just manage one that I can manage. So please, that money is too small for us.
A graphical representation of what workers in other countries earn as minimum wage will throw more light on agitation of workers in the country. Ironically, Nigerian politicians earn the highest salary in the world.
When they're campaigning for the election, they want us to do everything to put them in power. When they're there, they're just enriching their pocket now. If not, security vote is there, the issue contract of many things we know that is happening there. So they don't even care about the masses.
To my own surprise, I saw many states are still owing himself, not even the new minimum wage. The last 18,000, they are still owing the workers. So it's very, very painful. I would just say maybe the Mr. President is just deceiving we, the workers.
I don't think we should be talking of 30,000 naira minimum wage in the first place. We should not be talking of that kind of amount. In this God-blessed country, where oil and gas, we have raw materials, We have so many things. We are enriched as a nation. So the point is, why are we suffering?
Deremi Adebowale tells me she would like to earn more as she is currently squatting with a family member because she can't afford accommodation of her own. Even when you receive 30,000 naira, do you think it can make much difference?
It can make small difference. That 30,000 is not, it's not reserved for anything, but we manage it.
With some states currently paying less than 18,000 naira as minimum wage, it's hoped that Labour leaders will rise to the challenge and stand for decent pay in the country.
At this point of minimum wage, the workers and Nigerians would have benefited. Because if a worker benefits, the market woman, the market man will also benefit. So whatever happened to the worker is what is going to also translate down to the economy of this country. So you discover that today that should be there. For instance, the minimum wage, which would have come up until now, has not come. But rather, the prices of commodity has gone up astronomically. Right from the time it was negotiated to 30,000, it went up.
On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with the Secretary General of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria and the National President of the Medical and Health Workers Union. They both are serving under the Joint National Council for the consequential adjustment of the new national minimum wage for civil servants. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program.
Good afternoon, madam.
A lot seems not to have changed since our last conversation. The implementation of the new national minimum wage is on the lip of most civil servants. Can you tell me how eager are your members to actually get an increase in the current pay?
Thank you very much. They are very much eager. At the same time, we've told them that what is worth doing at all is worth doing well. We've appealed to them to show understanding, and they've understood with us that we want the best for them. If we had wanted just anything, we would have agreed to what government was proposing ab initio, which was to just give 5,000 to each and every employee in the public service. But we said we will not have that. Going by what we have in the marketplace and what workers face on a regular basis, that will be disastrous. So we are doing all within our powers to do the best for our members, for workers, and we are very hopeful that we are moving very close to the end of the process, whereby this thing will turn to naira and kobo to each and every one of public service employees, so that they too can have a bite of the minimum wage arrangement.
It's more than 6 months that the federal government approved 30,000 naira as the new national minimum wage. Can you give us information on how the consequential adjustments meeting has fared so far?
Yeah, so far, before the meeting deadlocked the last time around, they've been very rigid. They've not been forthcoming. They were not conducting the negotiation the way it should be. But since the resumption of negotiation, I think reasons have started prevailing. And at the last count, we maintained our position that having settled those on levels 1 to 6, that government should look at giving those on 7 to 14, 29% salary raise, and those from 15 to 17, 24%. Those from the government side, their own position is that they understand what the law is saying, but they don't have the capacity on their own to accede to our position, our demand. So on the strength of that, the meeting agreed that the two positions should be presented to Mr. President so that he will look at the gap and see that what we are really talking about is not something out of the place. It's something that the economy can pay. It's something that the economy can absorb. It's something that can be paid on a sustainable basis. So we will reconvene next week, and we'll hear what they've been able to come up with from their principal. And we are highly hopeful that when they come around to some of those windows that we've pointed out to them at the last meeting, they will explore those windows, and we'll be able to achieve something meaningful for Nigerian workers.
Some state councils actually sent press release to some mediums, and they said that there's an ultimatum that has actually expired. How true is this, that there's an ultimatum for to the extent to the government, and that probably there's a possible strike that actually can happen from now?
I want to see the actions as part of the struggle, as part of the solidarity, because when you have a kind of this kind of negotiation that has been a ding-dong affair, an average labor leader is trying to preempt what is going to happen at the end of the day. So it's part of the mobilization thing we are talking about. So no Nigerian worker will say that he's not aware that government is not being truthful and sincere on this issue of consequential adjustment. So by the time at the center we blow the whistle, you don't need much of mobilization again. I want to see the actions in that light. But for now, we've not, from the center, given any ultimatum. But strike cannot be ruled out. All options are on the table. Let us hope that by next week when we are meeting, they will come up with something meaningful. Otherwise, but don't let us preempt. Let's wait and see what is going to happen next week. We are hopeful.
It was in the news recently that the government accused Labour of being the reason why the new national minimum wage has not been implemented. What has Labour done?
We've reacted. That statement is not correct. And the person who made that statement also knows that the statement he made was not correct. It's just trying to create kind of disaffection in the minds of Nigerian workers, forgetting the fact that they are following this thing step by step. They know as soon as we finish discussion, we pass the message across. So they are well informed, and to kind of pass misinformation, to kind of achieve a divide and rule arrangement, it cannot work. How do you say Labour is one that is, ab initio you said you are going to pay 5,000, we said no. Later you moved to 10,000 naira, we said no. Later you moved to, so how can you now, we are negotiating. And by the time he made that statement, we've taken adjournment for a particular date, which he was party to, and which he also sent messages to us that we should not forget that the meeting will hold on so date. So how come you now come back and say it's Labour? So that statement is not correct.
On a final note, what does the government need to do to ensure that Labour doesn't necessarily have to go on strike, and what can be done to ensure that both the employers of Labour, workers and government are actually satisfied?
Yes, what they can do is very simple. We've put the old figures on the table, and we've also identified the windows that they can explore to be able to pay this consequential adjustment thing on a sustainable basis. So it's just for the government at the highest level now to look at what we are talking about and do the needful. Do the needful. And knowing fully well that when you look at it, what we are talking about and what they are talking about, the difference in most of the cases maybe 10,000, 15,000, 18,000 per month. So you now want to look at it just opposite to a scenario whereby you gave a pay rise, a kind of increase at all since 2010-11. And you know all what are taking place within the national economy. So what we are asking for is not even salary review, it's an adjustment. And when we are talking of salary review, nobody will be talking of 24%, nobody will talk about that. Because our own, the pains that they keep on approving some salary structures for some organizations. In fact, the one that just been done recently, where the least paid worker was given 148,000 per month. That's level 1, step 1. We are at level 17, step 1 of that is given 5 million naira. So look at the white gov. When you look at that 5 million, you not just oppose it to a director in the Federal Civil Service on grade level 1, 17, step 1, which is about 370 something. You look at the gap. So what is good for the goose, they say, we can complete that. So these are the things. So we are appealing to Mr. President to see reasons with us in the interest of the economy of this country, in the interest of the survival of the system, because the social strife, the problems around there are just too many, and you trace most of these things to poverty. You trace most of these things to joblessness. You trace most of these things to hopelessness. So there's need to change the thing, and the best way to do it, to kickstart it through this salary arrangement. About very close to 1 million people will benefit, and in this kind of a climate where you depend on one another, when you put something in the pocket of one person, about 20 or 25 other people are benefiting, and the system will be the better for it. That's our take.
It's good to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure to have you once again.
A lot is happening in the labor space, but that which is of most or utmost importance to the average worker is that of the implementation of the new national minimum wage. Top of it is the consequential adjustment, negotiation meeting that is actually ongoing. Can you tell us, would you say that what the government is bringing on the table is a living wage?
Certainly it's far from a living wage. It's not yet even a minimum wage, but we are trying to say that once we have gone into agreement, we owe it a duty to respect that agreement. And that's why 30,000 naira is where we are standing, and we are ready to ensure that that is done with a reasonable consequential adjustments to the upper scales as it used to be.
So when you're saying reasonable consequential adjustment, what's government bringing to the table, and can you tell us in practical terms what this means to the average workers in terms of naira and kobo?
To be very candid, there was a report which said, quoting the chairman Incomes and Wages Commission, saying that government offered 5,000 and then later opted to 10,000 per, across board per person, and that to them is very reasonable. I think for me, looking at past minimum wage increases, I think that is just a disregard to the economic realities that workers face in this country. And if that is what has been advised, and if that is the advice given to Mr. President, I think that advice is not properly placed, because what it simply means is that a director who was earning 400,000 naira, okay, after 8 years of earning 400,000 naira, and after 8 years of the fuel pump price increase, okay, increases that had followed, and after 8 years of even the unstable exchange rate, which culminated into the biggest fall, within the last period. And after going through all these, with house rents increases, cost of living increases, education cost increases, because most of the public schools, I'm not trying to say they were things that were caused basically by this government, but over the period, between the last time of the minimum wage increase and now, all these are things that have become like a demon that is a demon that is holding the worker to ransom. And he needed a deliverance. Now, this deliverance that we were expecting, rather than making it look good, that you are bringing a gloomy thing like 10,000 naira, added to somebody who was earning 400,000 naira. I think in the wildest of imagination, nobody would have seen that as anything near a succor element for all the sufferings that the workers pass through.
What are your expectations in clear terms?
Well, we on our part as Labour, we looked at everything, considering that we are desirous of also bridging the gap between the lowest earner and the highest earner. You remember the difference between 18,000 and 30,000 culminates mathematically to 66.6% increase. But in order to bridge this gap, we decided that the upper people should make some sacrifice. So we made a proposal that is sliding in scale, where we propose that from level 7 to 14 should be 30%. That is sliding off 36.6% from the lower base. And then we also said the upper echelon, which is 15, 16, and 17, should be placed at 25%. That was one of the last offer we made, 25%, meaning that we have slashed off 41% from what the lower person was increased on. So you can see that we are very considerate, saying that let us see how we can try to narrow the gap between the lowest earning and the highest earner. So now, in essence, what we asked for was that the man earning 400,000 should just get an increase of about 100,000 naira, so as to enable him see how he can just slightly withstand the harsh effects, the collateral effects of the rage and rebellion of the market forces, available. That's what we asked for. So I think that's not much. But lastly, when the government came, they said, okay, we should try and do a shift and that, and they offered 5% and 9.5% increase, percentage-wise. Then they now came back to offer, the last offer was 5.5 and 10%. They shook their body, they just shook their body, standing in the same place to make a 5.5 increase and then a 0.5 increase on the upper side. But we moved a little. We moved. They did not move, but we moved. We made a slice of 1 percentage point down.
But looking at the engagement so far, Labour has been the one shifting grounds at several occasions during the meeting. Would you say that the government is ready to do the needful to ensure that the employees, organized labor, organized private sector, at the end of the day benefit?
To be very candid, you see, I sometimes feel reluctant at putting government as a whole. Even at this point, at this my leadership point, most times the advice that comes to you is the one that most times drives your decision, positive or negative. But the only thing that will appeal to Mr. President is he should also look at the realities on ground. The realities on ground. What am I saying? What they are not saying translates to, for instance, like a level 7 man. They want to give a level 7 man additional 5,000 plus. Assuming that level 7 man is equivalent to a police 1-star, that is unconfirmed ASP, or he corresponds to a particular rank in the army. And then with all the security issues we have, that we want to also encourage them. We want to give them an incentive to really feel belonging in this nation and defend this nation like they would not bother about dying for this nation. 5,000 naira increase after 8 long years is not something that you can use in really propping them up. Most people say that the civil servant salary will cause no positive effects. But I tell you, that is the money that runs the local economy. A civil servant salary will not be taken out to import a building material. Civil servant salary goes straight to the market, to the okra table, to the ice fish, to the periwinkle seller, to, in fact, chicken and meat sometimes is way out. They only think of sometimes once a month. That's some people take it only on Sundays. Some take it at some levels of civil service, they take meat only once in a month. So they are the ones that runs the system. But the crayfish and all that, gari, everything, that is where the civil servants' money goes in. So if you are talking about the SMEs and the self-employed people making ends to meet, this is where the whole thing goes to run the system.
Looking at the situation we find on ground, right now we don't have any state that's actually taking the lead of implementing 30,000 naira as minimum wage. From my findings, the consequential adjustment meeting is actually essential to actually run and fuel the new national minimum wage. What's your message to state governors, especially when it has to do with the quick implementation of the new national minimum wage?
As usual, you know, politicians will always be politicians, especially when it comes to spending money, touching their vaults. At that point in time, you hardly will see the difference between parties. Hardly. Now, I think what they are hinging us, most of even the half-hearted willing states, what they are hinging us is that once the federal government finishes and then the consequential adjustment ends, they will begin to implement. That's what they are hinging us on now. Now, what I would say is that the quicker this is finished, the better. But it is not like, contrary to what people sometimes say, that it is in our hands. It's not in our hands. We are there to represent the people. We met with the people, and we are the people at the grassroots that know the realities. And what we feel will bring, sustainability in Nigeria, the working class, bring back some family control. That's what we are pushing for.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.